Introduction and a disclaimer. I've been tasked to create a guide from my knowledge about World vs World. Here it is. World vs World consists of 4 different map types: the Eternal Battleground, EB, the Alpine Borderland, the Desert Borderland and the Edge of the Mists, EOTM. We will focus on the first 3 mentioned here. Very simply put, World vs World is a massive PvP where people fight over objectives and each other. We will make Underworld great again. Very big disclaimer, it isn't defined how to play World vs World properly, but there is a general idea how guild/servers approach World vs World. This guide is based entirely on my own experience, which World vs World players might not agree on. Servers. Currently servers form groups and have a specific color. A matchup, MU, is what we call the servers or group servers fighting each other. For example, Underworld versus not Underworld versus also not Underworld. A server link is what we call servers grouped with other servers. For example, Underworld plus not Underworld, etc. Server transfer costs ranges depending on how many players from that specific server play World vs World. In the time of writing this guide, transfers to Underworld cost 500 gems. The server color specifies where you start in EB and which borderland you have. Green and blue servers have Alpine Borderland maps. Red always have Desert Borderland map. Every Friday 6 PM GMT servers reset, creating a new MU and or new server links, depending how long have passed since the last one. The server links usually stay for 2 or 3 months. Matchups. After reset, World vs World is being played the most of any other night. In MU, people are trying to have the most points at the end of it. Skirmishes are happening every 2 hours, comparing all the points gathered during the time skirmish was running. The server with the most points wins the skirmish. The first server gets 5 victory points, second server 4 victory points and the third server 3 victory points. The server with the most victory points at the end of the week wins the MU. Skirmish is determined by war score, which players achieve by holding objectives, killing other players, and generally almost everything in World vs World. Objectives and war score. The main goal is simple: to have the most points. People achieve this by taking enemy objectives or defending their own. The objectives are sentries, camps, towers, keeps and 1 castle in EB. When you want a credit for capturing an objective, kill at least 1 guard, participate on killing the lord, or stay in the circle area when capping. War score is generated based on what type of the objective was taken, castle being the highest and camps being the lowest. Sentries do not grant any war scores. War score is also given when finishing players, so it's always a good idea to not to die very fast and for no reason. More on that later on. The server also gets war score by holding the objectives after certain period of time, which is every 5 minutes. You and World vs World rank and abilities. World vs World have a special rank and abilities system. It's very similar to PvE Master is, but there are some differences. First, your World vs World rank determines how many world ability points you have. Equivalent in PvE would be, for example, Core Mastery points, which you can use in World vs World abilities. To maximum out all abilities you need World vs World rank of 1000. Recommended abilities to start with are Provisioner, for auto loot, Supply Master, faster supply pickups, which means more experience points for bigger World vs World rank. Supply Capacity, the most useful one for World vs World as a whole, can be skipped if you need points elsewhere. Siege Bunker, then every other depending on your needs. At last you gain World vs World rank by hitting a certain threshold of World vs World experience points, usually being 5000. Getting a World vs World rank grants you Tome of Knowledge and a chest with proofs of heroics, which are needed for HOT recipes buyable with World vs World tokens, and you get 1 ability point. You and reward tracks and participation. Most PvE players do only World vs World for Gift of Battle. This will not be a quick guide on how to get it. It's never quick since it's time gated. To progress your reward track you need reward track points. You get them from participation. You can only gain a certain amount of participation every 5 minutes. It's the same as the skirmish points calculator, also known as a tick. The maximum participation is 195, which can be increased by a PvE experience booster, the new exotic one, and 10% guild reward track booster to up to 312. A whole reward track takes 103 ticks, if maximumed out on participation, which is 515 minutes total, which is 8 hours and 35 minutes, with guild booster 470 minutes, which is 7 hours and 50 minutes, and both guild booster and XP booster 325 minutes, which is 5 hours and 25 minutes. It is not recommended to go to World vs World without World vs World reward track booster. If you are aiming for reward track progression, it's free from your guild's guild hall tavern. What reward track you choose is totally up to your preference. Go for Gift of Battle if you plan legendary soon, Bloodstone Fen for easy rubies, or normal dungeon reward tracks. You and what you are in World vs World. We can divide World vs World players usually into 3 groups: roamers, zergs and scouts, scouts being the least used one. We can define roamers as a small group of people causing havoc among enemy or just solo players going for a camp. Scouts' job is to look out for the enemy and set up siege to defend objectives. It's the most unprofitable part of World vs World, which a lot of people discourage, but it's highly respected by every World vs World player because of the commitment to the server as a whole. Law break. Zerg is an alien race from StarCraft universe, mostly distinguished by large numbers of small creatures called zerglings. They are very weak alone, but there is always strength in numbers. In Guild Wars 2, we describe Zergs as a large quantity of players, around 15 plus. We can further divide Zergs into 4 different groups: frontliner, midlaner, backliner and focus. The goal of the frontliners is to take and soak up the damage from the enemy, mostly guardians, warriors, and frontline tempests. Backliners are usually the most squishy used classes, mostly elementalists and hammer revenants. Midlaners are between front and back with having good on both ends, necromancers, and midlane/frontline revenants. Focus group/party usually consists of people that can easily kill people not stacking or low on health during fights. More on that later. Usually thieves and shatter mesmers. You and what you do in Zergs. Don't be a headless sheep but follow orders. The reason most commanders command is for people to follow them, and commanders trust you to do it. It is always good to be on VoIP, which is TeamSpeak or Discord, with your commander. You hear his plans, so you can move quickly to different borders before there is a queue, etc. If commander says that we should attack, and he dives into the enemy, follow him. If you die, maybe it was your fault of standing where you shouldn't, or commander's fault of ordering you to dive deep. What should commanders or lieutenants do? Provide you a squad subgroup, mainly if you are one of the main World vs World professions: GWENR, Guardian, Warrior, Elementalist, Necromancer, Revenant, and Engineer occasionally. Filling 2 Guardians per group, which should provide enough stability to survive crowd control. CC, skills, manage siege placements and supply, will be described later. Call out important parts: what to do in a fight. Lieutenants should assist the commander and take over if he dies. Decide where to go and what to do. The trust goes both ways. Commanders trust you to follow them, and you should trust your commander's ability to command. It is therefore needed to listen properly and mainly recognize several useful commands/phrases which will be described later. The main goal in Zerg fights is to not die very quickly and or in vain. Stack properly on your commander, so you can't get picked off by the enemy Zerg easily, and when dispersing, when frontline is attacking, do not fall way behind, to again get picked off easily. Sieging objectives and supply. To get into enemy objectives with walls, you need siege weaponry to get through. These siege weapons cost a blueprint to be placed on the ground and enough players' supply to be built. There are a total of 7 different siege weapons: flame rams, arrow carts, ballistas, catapults, trebuchet, siege golems, and lastly, shield generators. It doesn't matter where you use blueprints to place the siege weaponry, but place them where they should be. For example, do not place flame rams to get through a wall, or shield generators to get through doors, etc. However, if you are in a Zerg, never place your siege. The siege placement is done purely by the commander, so he can easily manage supply which could be used later on. If you have an excess of siege blueprints, just send them to the commander. The small ones are not costly, but the superiors can empty commander's wallet pretty quickly. Siege donations are always welcome and commander usually thanks you for it. You can get your supply at any supply deposit at your own objectives. The maximum supply without bonuses is 10, which can be increased by having supply capacity ability, up to 15 supply. Keeps can have a special claim guild bonus that grants extra +5 supply. And lastly, if the objective is a keep and have presence of the keep claim bonus active, another +5 supply. The maximum with all the bonuses is 25 supply. Abbreviations. Maps, Eternal Battlegrounds, EB. SM is Stone Mist Castle, in the middle. WC is Wild Creek Run, green side. Jerry is Jerifus Luff, green side. Anza is Anzalius Pass, red side. OW is Overwatch Cut, red side. Umber is Umberglade Woods, blue side. QL is Quentin Lake, blue side. Other ones use a whole words without the addition. For example, Darius Gulch, simply put Darius. Alpine Borderlands, Alp BL. Gary is Garrison, the keep in the middle of the map. Bay is Ascension / Dreadfall Bay, West Keep. Hills is Ascalion / Shadowrun Hills, East Keep. Sunny / WH is Sunny Hill / Woodhaven, Tower northwest of Gary. Cragtop / Dawns is Cragtop / Dawns Erie, Tower northeast of Gary. NCR North Camps, the Spirit Helm and the Titan Paw. SCR South Camps, Heroes Lodge and Champions Domain. Vale is Red / Blue Vale Refuge, the camp south of Bay. Briar is Red / Blue Briar, Tower southeast of Bay. Water Camp is Red / Green Water Lowlands, camp south of Hills. Lake Tower is Red / Green Lake, Tower southwest of Hills. Quarry is Faithleap / God's Law, camps west of Gary. Lumber is Foghaven / Stargrove, camps east of Gary. Desert Borderland, Desert BL. Earth / Gary is Earth Keep. Fire is West Keep. Air is East Keep. Academy is West Tower of Earth Keep / Gary. Necropolis, NP / Necro, is East Tower of Earth Keep / Gary. Otherwise people still use names from Alpine BL even in Desert. Servers. With servers people usually shrink the names like Underworld as UW, or Glade as AG, but a lot of servers has nicknames. For example, Abaddon's Gate is Blobberton, etc. Professions. Mez is Mesmer, usually said with Mez inside X, which means Mesmer hiding in an objective. Others. PPT is Points per tick, usually associated with PPT Guild, a guild that focuses on gaining points for the next tick, so they are capping objectives and avoiding big Zerg fights. PVD is Player versus Door, people attacking gates. Useful phrases / words / customs people use. Choke point is a place where you can concentrate your AoEs, usually a small area like an entrance to a cave or an objective, a small passage, or simply people stacked together in one place. Bomb, bombing, nuking, is using the highest cooldown abilities, usually used with bomb or nuke on me, called by the commander, to use big cooldowns like necro wells etc. on commander tag. CCs in front, mostly for guardians to use staff 5 ability, which is a CC wall. Resup at X, resupply to maximum supply at given objective. Don't drain X, do not resupply at given objective. Stab up, called by the commander, to tell guardians to use stability skills. Trade F3, or stand your ground. Big / small water, called by elementalists. They use Healing Rain as big water, or Geyser as small water at commander's tag, usually for people, to use blast finishes inside the created water field for AoE heal. Spawn, camp, usually said we can spawn you, negatively saying we can push you to your spawn, so you can't move out of it. It is a custom, if people RP walk next to a guild Zerg, when we are traveling, to not kill them. It is up to guilds to decide to follow this custom. We already failed. Quick tips for beginners and ending. Get someone who knows World vs World and can guide you through your first steps. It's hard to figure out the mode yourself, so a good help is always good. Maybe you might find the mode very good and play it occasionally alone. This guide doesn't include how guild claiming works, or for example how to be a proper scout, since it's aimed at complete beginners. If you want World vs World builds, visit metabattle.com. The site has actually really decent builds. If you are unable to get the proper build, Because you are a cheap whore. Discuss if you can have for example soldiers instead of celestial on your guardian. Use Julia's Google form to register what characters are ready for World vs. World. Thank you for listening to the guide, and now, kill me. Sincerely, Linux.